Greetings, my fine fellow tripoded dogs, being enhanced by the powers of medical science to get a new leg back. It is I, a goat, and I'm here to talk to you today about Lethal Lessons by Daniel Isamber. Isamber? Isamber. I'm going with that. But yes, this is a novel about Jessica? Jessica, a character who was initially a random one-off that didn't have too much, but is now expanded on and given much more depth and interest. It actually really makes a very interesting story. But yeah, if you've read Empire Alone or Redemption Rights, you might remember Jessica as being the Clan Wolf Commander Star Captain? Star Captain that got the Wolves Dragoons off one of their planets and then was recruited by Otharo, or however you pronounce his name, or however I pronounced it. I do not remember. It's been a second. Um, who then became a Star Colonel and was like given control of her own battalion. And so this pretty much is her backstory. Like we got a little bit of it, like the barest minimums in Redemption Rights, where it's like, oh, her leg got blown off. She's there getting medical treatment while they regrow a new one. But in this one, it kind of gives her like her own story and history because pretty much what they had, or at least in terms of how I interpreted it, is she was just a commander. They were just a basic clan warrior that didn't really have much going on with them. So they were just the definition of a bit player. And with this, you get a look into who she is as a character and like her history, and that very much builds her into a more interesting and complex character with a lot going on, as well as a little look into the lives of a Sibco. So you get to see some young clan like warriors as they grow into it and go and make their trial of possession, which is very interesting and has a lot of cool bits that you can look into with how this culture or just the culture of the clans kind of works, or specifically just the wolves. And it's very interesting. It makes a really interesting way of looking at like how they raise and teach these people and how that culture raises up and creates the people it needs to, but also like kind of the cruelty of it. With the Simcoe plotline, we have a lot of just you see two Rizstars that they have and their kind of rise in this group and the training person. I'm forgetting the term for them. Um, that the wolves have, who is just the head of the Sibco training on this one planet that Jessica's on. And the kind of positive elements of that, where they're like they're really smart, they're able to interpret like what a bad plan is and then make their own that leads them to victory. But also how that kind of ruins people's relationships in a way, because there is a character who is like being used as the okay, I'm going to use this dumbass idiot to then sharpen and make these two like Rizstars have a sense of caution and whatnot, because the guy training them has this regret about losing one of his first students and them dying because they were too overconfident and whatnot. And that kind of paints the way for a lot of the story. Is the relationship between the guy who taught everything, who I'm forgetting the name of, but pretty much like taught both Jessica or Jessica, Jessica, Jadzia, Jessica. I'm gonna go with Jessica. It's probably the wrong pronunciation. Um, I'm heavily dyslexic, so I can never tell that. And reading a name, you never know. So that's what I'm going with. But yeah, so Jessica pretty much, when we go and look at her, is kind of mirrored to her old teacher, like both figuratively and literally, because she rose to the ranks, but she's getting old. She's at that point where she's about to go either into where she can go be a trainer or a Solomon and go be like the old person who's not really going to get any honor. But she's not immediately there. It's not like within a couple weeks. She's just on the edge. Like in a couple more years, she'll have to deal with that decision. And so she's grappling with that. The fact that she lost her freaking leg while hunting a pirate and made a dumb decision, and then like having to confront her old teacher who she despises and views like that thought she was like an idiot, and kind of has this whole thing where he also lost his leg in a fight, but because of medical technology, like his leg didn't heal right, and now he walks with like a limp, and he's had all these problems. And now Jessica is having the same thing going, where it's like, okay, my leg got blown off. I'm having it be regrown. Hopefully, it will be better, and I won't end up like that. So it's kind of that whole mirrors of two people, where it's like this guy is trying to teach stuff, but he is harsh, and then this student who kind of never really got the lesson, the titular lethal lesson, as it is kind of imposed, or I don't know. I feel like I'm getting a little ahead of stuff, but basically the idea is we're just kind of informing who this character is, as well as giving a little subplot that helps inform more about like what the titular lesson is, why this guy did all what he did, while trying to import said lesson to Jessica, and then at the very end you get the fight with the Wolves Dragoons, and it's a really good, simple, compelling like character story. Like you get a lot of like little interesting bits that kind of tell you about both the culture of the clans and like the kind of mood that a lot of the warrior cast, or the ones that got left behind, could be feeling, um, but are also different in the outcomes of their outlook than what you'd saw in Redemption Rights or read in Empire Alone. Because Jessica comes out of this kind of renewed. She has this vigor where she's like, yeah, I'm going to be going into the future, and I'm not going to be so. I'm going to take my reins, and I'm going to get what I want, because she kind of comes out of this better. She comes out of this story like able to move past her regrets, her like drawbacks that have like hold her back, and like what she's blamed on in the past. And it's a really interesting, like it's not like a crazy complex story, but it does what it wants to effectively. It really drags you in. It reevaluates what you might think of this character, who I'm saying, I'm gonna say it again, I did not think they were like anything. They were like, oh yeah, that person exists. They did that thing on the Wolves Dragoons, and then they became a Star Colonel. Yeah, okay. I don't know why they wrote a whole story. It was like, oh, there's a lot going on here. Because they give her all these faults, these regrets, these things where she blames her old teacher, and how she kind of like has the thing with the leg and the parallel with him, and whatnot. But yeah, like the little like actual spoiler alert, lethal lesson is the fact that like you need to be cautious. You need to not run in ahead. You need to think before you act. Like that's the lethal lesson, which all comes back to like that trainer like losing that one star pupil when he tried to like encourage them. He encouraged them too much to where they made them like headstrong and kind of stupid. They didn't think, and so now he's trying to do that. He's like beating all these students like ferociously to impart that no, you are not special. You are maybe smart, but you will still die if you don't think before you act. Even if they hate him, like you will live and be better because of what I've done. So it's that kind of harsh, painful reality that he's trying to impart, and that he sort of tried to do with Jenica, but she failed, but still got into the warrior caste. Because he tried to, her trial of possession, he got in a mech and kind of tricked her into thinking she could get an easy win, but reality, it did not work out. And he took her down, and where she only got one kill, but now she got to this level in spite of all that, and she's like been trying to push forward because she's got this determination, but she's also got this anger and frustration. And it makes a really interesting character that you want to. I like her. I like seeing what she got going on, her mental state, and like the things she thinks about. It's a fun, interesting read about like who she is, and like also her views towards other people, because she's older, so she's wiser, and she doesn't treat the uh, other cast as harshly. She still does it because she's a clanner, so they're gonna like not treat them well. But she also has this one interesting relationship and like conversations over the course of the novel up to a point with another character who was going to be a warrior in the warrior caste, but flunked out deliberately because he knew fighting wasn't his thing, and he knew he could better the clan with medical knowledge, or like being a doctor. And so there's a little interesting thing where like her viewing that and then having this relationship with him being her physician and how he's trying to improve the limb regrowing technology upon that to better the clan, and that kind of builds into her character by using him to further explore her and her views and what she wants to do with her life, because she's at the point where it's like, what do I do? I'm getting old. I have to keep doing this. So do I just give up, or to become sullen, or do you just get that renewed vigor, which it has at the end? And then the Simcoe thing gets really interesting because it kind of highlights, I guess, like the cruelty of this system that creates these warriors. Because, like I said, it follows two Rizstars who are like super like in tune with each other. Like they are like one brain. They have the same brain cell. They share the same brain cell. They are of one mind, one singular brain cell of smart pantses. And so they are like just super smart. But what makes it interesting and like kind of adds a drama and like a bitterness to it, like, because they're kind of like, oh yeah, this fucking person in charge is stupid, so we made a better decision. But what makes that interesting is the person that was in charge is this one shit kid who his relationship one was the guy in the two restars, because dude and the lady um, are like he was really close friends, and then might have been like in love with him and whatnot, but because the other person came into the relationship, they left him and just kind of just constantly stayed and stuck with them, and so that kind of removal of them made him resent them, sort of, and then like because like the guy in charge is using him as a means of browbeating them to not be like stupid and not and think carefully and like be aware of your situations and stuff, has kind of turned his resentment into hatred, and like then the rest of his school, Sibco, however you want to kind of define the familial class thingamabob that you could best describe that grouping as, into hating him and viewing him as like this useless thing, and it's cruel. It highlights that like in the way that only like young people can be, and it creates an interesting thing to then highlight like with later in the stuff of the story. And so that's really interesting, like seeing where that goes, and then how Jessica then sees these kids as they're going, and then moving forward into like then becoming the Starcom at the very end of the story, as well as a little snippet on like what she did and how she had certain assets on planet for when she repelled the Wolves Dragoons and stuff. Get like a smidgen of that, but most of this is like some really good kind of character study, as well as like just kind of showcasing some of the weirdness with the clan culture and all the kind of fun that comes out of reading this, just a good story that like creates a character from what was a very kind of generic like, ah yes, this is the non-specific uh, create a character sort of thing. We need someone to fill a role. You're there. You are XCOM, just a random XCOM character that you don't really have anything for, that you haven't made into a specific one with a group of like people who are like your OCs and stuff. That's kind of how it felt, and now she has become, instead of being a generic thing, she now has like a lot more going on that like makes me want to see what is she gonna do next. How is she gonna what's her next adventure? Like I want to see more of her in the future. I want to see what her exploit is and what happens with her. If not, it's a good story. But yeah, so just kind of the opposite of last time with Riptides, where it was kind of a nothing story. This is a really great little novella that informs a character who I wouldn't have had any opinion on. They were just, like I said, they were a generic create a character NPC, and then boom, they're like something more. It's that's, I think, one of the best things you can do with uh, this kind of fiction is just you have something that you think wouldn't be that interesting, and then you have a great author like here just go in and just write a great little story that like makes you really like or are interested to see what this character is going to be doing next, or at least just you appreciate what they could be doing in the background even more because you know about their history or their character now. And it kind of just makes that really interesting little story you can get. But yeah, so yeah, I definitely, if you enjoyed what I've talked about with this, I'd highly recommend you check out Lethal Lessons by Daniel Sir. It can be found in ebook form down below at various places. I don't know if there's a paperback version. I would hope so. This is a nice little thing. I would love to have a nice little physical copy of this short story. But yeah, if there's a physical copy, I'll put it down below. I don't really have any affiliate links because I don't know how you do that because I just like books and I just want to talk about books. I'm a book goat. Book goat. But yeah, if you enjoyed this little ramble about cool giant robot fiction, um, definitely hit the subscribe, do the likeals, and then comment down below if you read this and what you think. If there are any cool bits that you also would like to see explored, like what are some of the minor elements that maybe you'd love to see someone expound upon from either the most recent source books or just things you like about BattleTech that you wish got more of the spotlight, either in like short story form, a thing in the shrapnel or whatnot. Just any lovely little uh, something that you'd want to see. Like just put that down below because that's cool. And I also want to see more cool stuff. But yeah, if you enjoyed this, do all the little thingamabobs, and I hope you liked hearing me ramble about cool books that I read, and I hope you read too. Once again, I thank you, and I thank my two patrons once more for helping support making these videos, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Uh, the next one should either be Elements of Treason, Honor, or either the Hellhounds Ascent, depending on which one I am really amped up to read, because I like those two factions a lot, and I also there's not really any Hell's Horses fiction except for like a couple stories in Shrapnel and then stuff with Jade Falcons. So I don't know which one I'm gonna read. It just depends on which one I get in the mood for, because I need to read those two books to make my glorious videos. But yes, hopefully you look forward to those cool books and me talking about them in the future, or whether or not you all are going to be reading them or whatnot. But yes, I hope you all have a great one, and I wish you a good one. Yeah. Oh, I'm rambling on. Oh no, I keep going. I don't know what to say. Oh no. Oh, I know what to say. This is the end of the video. Goodbye, and I hope you have a good one. There we go.